Hey guys, hope you're doing well. The Gen 1 Porsche Taycan is a brilliant car that is unfortunately let down a little bit by its battery, both in terms of size, capacity, and also more recently, unfortunately, reliability as well, which doesn't seem to be where it needs to be compared to some of the competition out there. But recently, I read something which kind of gives me a little bit of hope for this car, the Gen 1 specifically, going forwards. Now, it is a comment that I read, a passing comment, and I don't know if it is true or not because I haven't had time to dig into it, and I will do at some point. But I'll get back to that in a bit. Before I do get there, I want to talk about the Gen 1 Taycan and what does put a lot of people off who are thinking about making the plunge. Those people that think, oh, I love the way the car looks, I might have test driven it, I love the way it drives, but that reliability is a bit of a concern for me. What is that battery health like? Can I be confident that any report that I get provided by Porsche or a third party is going to be accurate and fully honest about the state of health of my battery? Could there be any modules at fault? Has that capacity significantly degraded over time? And lithium-ion batteries do degrade over time. You'll find that iPhones, Samsung phones, over time will lose that capacity. And a lot of phone manufacturers now are forcing you or advising you to charge to 85% to protect your battery health and longevity. And why wouldn't you if you can? But they're not quite as big an investment as a big old car like this. So you want that confidence that the battery is healthy. And recently, it looks like there are going to be changes implemented for Euro 7 going forward. Euro 7 is, of course, the European directive that essentially states the emissions that a car must meet and other environmental considerations that manufacturers must apply to those cars for it to be deemed Euro 7 compliant and thus able to be sold. And I think Euro 7 also looks at things like brake dust that is given off. But the other part of Euro 7, and I think it's as soon as July of this year potentially, is that all new EVs must come with an SOH monitor. What is an SOH monitor? It is a state of health monitor. Right now in this car, this Taycan, your Taycan is my Taycan. In this car, I can see how much the battery is charged by, for sure, as you can in any EV. And you probably spend a little bit more time looking at that than you'd like to in this car. But what I cannot see is the state of health of the battery. How much of that original capacity still exists? Are there any faults? Has anything flagged up? But this new directive is going to mandate that consumers of cars, i.e. owners of cars, need to be able to see what state of health their battery is in on the dashboard. It needs to be displayed to them. It needs to be provided to them by that manufacturer. Now, the UK specifically is no longer bound by Euro per se, but we follow it as part of a directive. And in the UK government, there is an OZEV, I think, which is an Office for Zero Emission Vehicles, is going to look at making this mandatory for UK built EVs as well. That is going to be mandated, and it is a really, really good thing because it is going to give you, the consumer, much more confidence in the cars that you buy, the EVs that you buy, or EVs that you might be looking at. Because with an ICE car, you'd be able to look at the history, and you could have somebody look at the engine potentially to let you know if it's okay. Oil longevity, you can see that on the dashboard in some cars. You get much more information about an ICE car than you do about an EV. In an EV, you just see the sort of charge state of the battery. So this is going to be a really good step forward for the EV used market, which at the moment is undoubtedly really struggling in many ways. These as well. These cars are absolutely not immune to the depreciation that is caused by all the uncertainty that surrounds battery life, battery longevity in these cars. And I've seen comments on the channel, people saying, oh, I love the Taycan, I want to buy one, but I'm just too scared because I don't trust it well enough. I don't trust the battery. Now, this comes down to the fact that you just don't know, and it's quite right to be concerned about getting into a car that you don't know the battery history of, and this is all going to change that. But what about this from the perspective of Porsche? What are they doing to address this going forward specifically? Because I've spoken about this on previous videos, that Gen 1 kind of battery time bomb that you might have in the future. Now, the comment that I saw the other day did state that apparently, and I don't know how true this is, that the part number for the Gen 1 battery in the Taycan no longer existed. And to me, this could potentially say that Porsche, if they were to fit a new battery pack, a whole new battery pack in a Gen 1 Taycan, would it get the Gen 2 battery pack, which is much better in terms of chemistry, range and reliability? And indeed, is there a wider plan going forwards potentially from Porsche's standpoint to address this? Now, we know that Porsche are actively installing battery monitoring software onto their Gen 1 Taycans. It's been delayed. It was supposed to have happened already, but it's been pushed out to, I think, June or July this year. Don't quote me on that, but it's been delayed. And of course, they've applied that software so they can understand and monitor just where the Gen 1 Taycan batteries are at in terms of things like failed modules, etc. Batteries that might be about to go kaput, batteries that need a bit of TLC. And this comes down to that used market issue as well. You've got all these Taycans, recent video, 1,000 Taycans available for sale on an Auto Trader. People potentially worried about buying them because of the battery health. How else can Porsche address this? Well, warranty, be able or provide consumers, people who are buying these cars, with warranty confidence beyond that 100,000 miles, beyond that 8-year lifespan. Now, the EU directive, as I understand it, states also that EVs, the battery health must be at least 80% state of health by the time they reach 100k. That's 100k kilometers as they do in Europe, and I believe 70% by the time it reaches 160,000 miles. Porsche's commitment is roughly about the same. It aligns with that roughly. So you've got 100,000 miles, 160,000 kilometers, that's 70% state of health, and that is for any module, I believe, that will be replaced. So Porsche are kind of aligning to that already, but what we don't have is visibility. And what we don't have right now is confidence in the ability to retrofit these cars with something that is going to make them better. And that is the thing about this car, the Taycan. It is brilliant. I love it. I do love this car. The acceleration, the drive, it just puts a smile on my face. It's a lot of fun for a big, heavy car. It really is. And it would be such a shame to see a Taycan, a Gen 1 Taycan graveyard, if you like, of just disheveled, uncared for cars that are being bought by people who just want a beat up runaround because that battery is on the way out. It might be at 70% capacity, right? But if there was a program, if there was something in place to be able to retrofit this Gen 1 with a Gen 2 battery pack and breathe a whole load of new life into all these aging Taycans at some point in the future, wouldn't that just be a really wonderful thing? I think it would. I really do think it would. And if Porsche can do something, if they can step up, and admittedly it would cost them probably a hell of a lot of money to do so, but if they could step up and provide confidence, re-inject, reinvigorate that used market with some program that just made it feasible to continue to drive these cars, wouldn't that be a good thing? Absolutely, it really, really would in my eyes. So, all eyes on Porsche for this one. Let's see how it pans out, but of course, you're going to see confidence, or the ability to have confidence in EVs, improve going forwards after Euro 7, which can only be a very, very good thing. That's it for this one. Do stay well, stay safe. See you in the next one, and bye for now.